I'm spoiled.
That was a truly stunning experience.
Yes.
So you're talking about a couple of million hits of a hammer at least over centuries.
So it's currently about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I've been in the emergency room since 10 o'clock at night last night. And I spent the first 2 hours, 3 hours of that time screaming, gripping the sides of a hospital bed. So, got some morphine action going right now. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's no way I'm going to be able to get back to help shoot the episode this week. I guess Rex will figure it out. Cheers.
What? I didn't do it. This is for a different hobbit.
The art and craft of barrel making, of being a barrel cooper. This is old school, man. This is ancient.
Yeah, there's things written about it just after BC switched to AD.
Of course, if we're doing an episode about it, we have to get the best of the best. Just a 5th generation master cooper.
Ger Buckley, master cooper for Jameson Whiskey in Middleton, 200 years.
You don't look a day over 50.
Is this still used as a cooperage, or is this like a showpiece? Because this looks like something straight out of an old photo.
Nothing has changed in my cooperage when marketing discovered me about 8 or 9 years ago. All the tools, my box is
So this is all your stuff?
This is all my stuff, and my big box is my dad's box.
All right.
Man.
Can you show us? Yeah, walk us through here.
A lot of the tools I have are all his. For example, one of the few measuring tools in coopering is a compass.
Yeah.
This compass belonged to my grandfather's brother, who was a ship's cooper in the British Navy from 1880. And this is varnished because he had to produce his tools on board ship for inspection.
Right.
And even though this compass is over 100 years old, it still works absolutely perfectly.
Wow.
So if I'm making a small barrel, this is the compass for making a smaller barrel. And then say for an American barrel, this is what I would call an American compass, what I call a 40 gallon. So we have different size compasses depending on what size barrel we're measuring. Tools I started with in adze for shaping the top of the barrel, for shaping this chamfer on top. Even just the design or the top of this, why just can't it be straight? Yeah, it could be straight, but the problem when you have a straight here, it becomes very weak and it can chip off and cause a leak. So you must always chamfer this, and it strengthens the whole rest of this part of the barrel called the chime. And the groove, obviously, where the lid fits into the groove. And that essential design is literally unchanged since Egyptian times, 4,500 years ago. The tool to cut that groove is called a crows, where it sits inside in the barrel and rides along the top of the barrel, cutting that groove. Okay, and you can adjust it up or down. This one, my grandfather used, my dad used. We wore all one side of it down, so we reversed the board. Okay, and now I'm wearing the other side down.
There you go.
And we named a whiskey after this, called Jameson Cooper's Crows.
Yes.
This is the crows that it's named after.
That's cool.
The other thing with coopering that people might know as well is a lot of my tools are called after animals. So I have a kind of a spoke shave here for shaving the side of the cask or the top of the cask. My dad has his 3 marks on it. It's called a swift, which is a type of bird, type of swallow, and it's got 2 wings on it. Another tool that's used as a lever, so you might use it on the side of the barrel to pull the stave back, and we call it a dog, because it's got 2 ears on it. So anybody in engineering or in carpentry that wants to grab things and pull things, you get dogs to do the work, to pull it, you get a dog to pull it. I kind of like to romantically think this is the original dog that's going back. Over here, I have a horse you would use to grab wood, and you could work on it. So the original version of these is a log that's notched. That predates a vice or anything like that. And you can use knives, various types of knives. So this is what I call a draw knife. It does the outside of the cask, the backing, so it's a backing knife. So I want to round the outside, and I would...
Oh, wow.
Put your foot down there. So the more you push down the handles, the severer the cut.
All right, so, shallow.
There you go.
That is cool.
And you see, a lot of people still work with these tools in other crafts. Chair makers,
Right.
walking stick makers. So you will find, you can buy these online, and you can buy the plans to make a horse and all that. You can see it in the photograph here.
Yeah.
And this photograph is 1908.
I like that you're using. I like that you're
Rush.
using this as your pointing stick.
Russell Reed.
Yeah, and that's to fill in cracks in a loose barrel, right?
And well, not just filling cracks, but also to caulk in here. What I could do with that is show you how it works. Loose loops. The thing I try to explain to people as well about tools I have is, in my dad's time, even when I started, you couldn't rush out and just buy tools.
Right.
You nearly had to kind of make a lot of the tools yourself. And this was an old file used by a farrier for horseshoes and stuff
Right.
that broke, and we turned into a tool. Most of my tools I've had all my life. So if I would caulk in here like that, and if it's stiff like that, I'm struggling to get it in, I get the dog. Then I can pull back the stave, and now I can keep pulling them back, and it allows me to get the rush into the groove. Essentially, this is the only thing I have to help me seal a barrel.
Right.
It's quite natural, again, because barrels probably originated in Egypt,
Right. So
where they use a lot of
yeah.
rushes and reeds for papyrus and everything else. And then you can also use it down the side of the barrel.
Right.
And again, you can put that in there and run your rush up and down it. Some of the other tools that I would have that people find fascinating would be, say, Cooper's axe. This is a Cooper's axe.
Wow.
The thing to remember is that Cooper would always have a block that he would work on. And if he comes down, so what I'm doing is I'm peeling the wood off. I'm not just chopping at it.
Right.
And then you start to get some shape into your stave. So I'm thinner at the end, wider in the middle. And I do that on all four sides.
You just kind of sketch on it and follow your
So
line.
everything I do is by eye. As I said, the only measuring tool is the compass.
Right.
After that, everything is by eye. If I take too much wood off, my barrel is too sloped.
Right.
If I take too little off, it's too straight. That's the first judgment call I gotta make. Then I go to the horse, as I said, and start to peel it, start to shape it with the knives. That's the outside. On the inside, I would use a different tool. That tool is in lots of crafts. This is only in coopering, because we're the only ones needed that shape for the inside of the barrel.
Right.
And when I grab it here, then I can and you can see,
Yeah, you can already see the slope.
and you can see the beautiful grain coming up. And then once you're finished that, the next step is to plane this, what I call joint it. This is the jointer. So in carpentry, where you hold a piece of wood in a vise and you plane it, it's the opposite in coopering.
Okay.
We hold the plane and we run the wood over it. This one is what I call a heading jointer for making the lids.
Right.
A stave jointer is much longer. And just and I can reverse. So right now, the slope of the stave is determined by the width of the stave.
Okay.
So the wider I am, the more slope I have on it, because I'm taking up more circumference of the barrel. So if I show you, say on a wide one here, it's a lot more sloped. And a thin one is very straight.
Oh yeah.
There's no two the same. So then when I match them together, they match. If I get the angles wrong and it's too open like that, I have a leak. The thing is, because I'm doing everything by eye, every mistake I make, the barrel will leak.
Right.
I have to reach perfection every time I repair a barrel or make a barrel. Because what you don't want to do is finish making a barrel, send it up to be filled, and then they're saying, your barrel is leaking everywhere. That's what you don't want. Why coopering was so regarded as a craft is that you could make a container purely by eye and skill that could last 40, 50 years with never leaking. And the really great coopers would have enough work done in 3.5 days that they could drink then the rest of the week.
Yeah, there we go.
But you can see you get an amazing finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what you're looking for, that amazing quality finish.
Beautiful.
All barrels were long like this, were designed long, traditionally.
Right.
And when barrels were used to transport petroleum, a barrel of oil, as we still measure it today,
Right.
when you're rolling a barrel when it's full, it's very delicate.
Right.
There's a lot of weight in there. There can be 1/4 ton inside in a barrel.
Right.
You bang that off something rolling it, you can snap it in two. So you have to be very careful when a barrel is full. When people were transporting petroleum and weren't very careful and rolling the barrel, and if you hit the corner here of something, it'll snap at the groove. Then you get a leak of petroleum, then you get a spark,
Yeah, then
and then you
goes
have
up.
fire, explosion, injuries. So the American government introduced a rule to reduce the height of the chime from there down to here. So I like to think this is a Texas story
Yeah.
when you're rolling it, because
Yeah.
it's not as long,
Right.
there's less chance
Low
of
risk.
breaking.
Yeah.
So this is the design of the petroleum business,
Right.
not the bourbon business.
That's wild.
So I'm just going to bring this one over here.
Look at that.
So Cooper, as I said, would always work on his block, like that. And then he would have an adze to shape the chamfer on the top of the barrel. What I'm trying to do is making sure that I'm coming up on the cut. So when I'm coming up, I'm coming with the grain, so I get a much smoother finish.
Okay.
If I come straight across, I tear the wood. And that's what you do. And then you have your chamfer done. There's nothing I do that most people can't learn to use. It just depends on how far up the skill level that you go.
Right.
Like, how do you become a master at anything? I think there's a couple of things you need other than saying doing a degree and getting a master's degree. Is that one, you need a long period of time of study in your craft or your profession. For me, I'm 44 years working as a cooper. I never stopped learning. I never stopped visiting other cooperages. I never stopped visiting forests. It's as much about passion and learning as it is about anything else. I've worked with lots of coopers that were just quite happy to come to work, do their day's work and be gone. I wanted to know the answers to everything. I wanted to know why tools were designed in certain ways, why designs of barrels were in certain ways. So for me, that's how you eventually become a master.
Yeah.
And whether you're a master of whiskey and tasting and everything else, it's passion for what you do.
Adding context to all of your actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The only Cooper tool I have right now is this one.
Oh,
I've got that one. That was just to tighten up things when they came to me.
And
new,
that's probably the most
brand
important.
new.
Like, these are the two you need.
Yeah, that's all I have. Before I leave, I want to see your method, because ISC guys told me how to pop a head, put it back in.
Yeah, do you want to
I'd
do
love
it?
to see yours as well. He took the top two off and that was it.
No, I would advise you take the tree off.
Okay.
Because that way you're not going
Too
to
much
break
stress
it.
on the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a possibility you will break here. This section here, traditionally we call it cantle. Quarters, centers.
Okay.
Every part of a barrel has a name,
Yes.
okay?
You do realize you asked a question for a crowded barrel about how to remove the lid, and you're getting a lesson
I know. No,
from
I know.
a 5th generation
I know.
master cooper.
I'm spoiled.
So I always like to remove the tree hoops
Okay.
when I'm doing it. And I'll tell you why. So, the lines of the head is the direction of the grain of the wood.
Right.
The direction of the grain of the wood should always nearly face the front of the barrel.
Okay.
So that when the barrel is lying horizontal,
Right.
the grain is going from
and
floor
down.
to ceiling.
Right.
So when you put another barrel on top, it can take the weight.
Right. Okay, I never thought about that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay? Where you don't want to hit the barrel is on the edges.
Right.
Because this is the weakest point. This is where it
Okay.
can snap. You want to hit it in the middle, which is the center of the barrel.
Right.
Center of the lid. And then be careful on the edges. Down gently. I like to get my hand in and lift it out.
Right.
And if I wasn't careful, it could snap here and then I got to make a new piece.
Right.
Because these are just dowels.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Can come apart.
Yeah, I was wondering how those are held together.
So I
There you
can
go.
repair any part of this as well.
Right.
And if you smell that,
Yeah.
that is the essence of what American oak is.
Yes.
What you're not smelling there is whiskey.
This smell, there's
It's
no.
only oak.
Wow.
That's where it's coming from.
Holy crap! That's the lactones, and that's
And
everything I describe an Irish whiskey as.
But even American whiskey or even
Yeah, I can.
other whiskeys.
You can smell the hint of bourbon. You find those notes in Tennessee whiskey.
What I like to explain to people is until you actually do this, until
Yeah.
you actually smell a barrel that has no whiskey content, that is, it's a dry barrel.
Right.
Until you smell that oak, then the penny drops as to where these flavors are coming from. Like even experienced whiskey drinkers can't
Right.
believe that, oh, I get where all that taste and flavors coming from.
Yeah.
Right. No.
That was a truly stunning experience.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of things that we've sampled probably well over 1,000 whiskeys at this point
On the show, at least.
on the show,
More
and the number of times that we've tried to figure out, well, where's that coming from? Where's that coming from? And now there's elements that are so common,
Yeah.
so beloved in whiskey, and it's not the new make, it's not the spirit,
No.
it's the barrel.
For example, in Texas, one of the things we're starting to experiment with is larger barrels, but toasted and charred like bourbon barrels. The reason is there's a less ratio of wood to liquid, which buys us a little more time in the
little more time,
Texas
yeah.
heat.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, but these all go back to things that we're not discovering. They've been doing them for thousands of years.
They have. It's been rediscovered. As we all know in the whiskey business nowadays, and I go back to a time when whiskey was on its knees, when nobody was selling whiskey anywhere. To see it now so flourishing. What I think is really improved in the whiskey is shows like your own. There's so much education now in it. There's so much thirst for knowledge on where all the influences come from, how everything is done, from distilling, coopering, wood, everything. I find that amazing.
A lot
And
more curiosity out there.
yeah, and people, when they drink whiskey now, they'll know so much about it, it's far more enjoyable. Even.
Yeah.
It's an incredible, exciting time.
Yes, I totally agree. So putting it back in, you just reverse that process?
You put in
Soft
the
edge
wheat,
first.
soft edge first. You only hit on the chamfer.
Ah.
You don't hit here.
Right.
So just gently. And because the barrel is kind of loose with 3 hoops,
Right, just
it goes in easy
and it
enough.
pulls tight.
And what I would do then is I would put in a reed or a rush.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing, if you could do it, I would remove the rivets. I can knock out these rivets.
Right.
Do you want me to do it?
Sure, yeah.
Let's go over to the anvil and I'll show you. What you've probably realised since you walked into my cooperage, it's all about history and the age of things. And I often wonder how many hits does it take to wear an anvil down?
I know, right? It's almost like it's melted.
It's almost like it's... So you're talking about a couple of million hits of a hammer at least over centuries. You have this little piece of metal here which I call a bolster with a hole in it. Put your rivet into it, get a punch. And now so I would go back to my barrel then, and I would size it up that I'm a little bit above the rim. So we'll just presume it. Get a rivet, flatten my hoop. I'll go halfway just to see what it's like. Put it over the hole. Then put over my next hole.
Oh, just sizing it up like a belt.
Yeah. On the flat part of the anvil that's well worn down. And I start to flatten. Now the other thing we always do is we put a diamond shape on the rivet. So I angle my hand. And you could always know who repaired what barrel by the shape of the rivet.
They had their own little swing.
They had their own little method of doing it, so you'd know by recognising the rivet as to who did what.
Oh, crap.
Put it back in, tighten the whole thing up.
Right.
Now, the other thing you always notice is your rivets always line up at the front,
Right.
and the lines always line up at the front. Tighten it up. Now, even when you're hitting the top of the hoop, if I don't hit it correctly, I bend the hoop.
Yeah.
So even little skills like that develop over time. And then the last thing we must do is a cooper always had to mark his work. So you could use a letter, you could use a number, but once you selected your emblem, it's yours for life then. So if something happened to the barrel later, if it leaked or something happened, they can trace it back to who last made it or repaired it. So this I inherited from my dad and probably my granddad. And this, all this tool ever did was put your mark on the wood. And again, how many times do you have to hit it? Obviously, it's number 1.
Obviously.
And you put it here and you give it a tap. So I'm going to let you.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
Just to,
Even
and
with
you
the gun?
always go where
Always
the
line
rivets
up
are.
with the rivets and the
So
top.
there you go.
That's cool. Thank you.
So let's have a whiskey.
I'm
Yes.
good with that.
What we have here is Jameson Black Barrel.
Right.
And this is a whiskey I'm kind of very fond of myself in the Jameson category. It's almost an American style whiskey.
Right.
It's got a lot of very sweetness and aromas from the American wood. We also double char the barrels. We take the lids out and we do a much deeper, richer char because we want as much American oak contribution as we can get. So we do have some Spanish wood in here, but it's that sweetness we're really looking for. An Irish toast I'm very fond of. May the roof above us never fall in, and we friends beneath never fall out. Sláinte.
We bop and hippity hop, I'm as happy as I can be.